What is going on, everybody? I'm Ben Shepard, back with another episode of Everything Collegiate. We've been gone for a little while. School started for me here in Boston. Some other stuff happened that we're not going to get into in a sport podcast. It wasn't the right time for me to talk about anything last week. So now we're back talking about week 3. I'm not going to go over really anything that happened in week 2. What? You need to hear my thoughts on Clemson surviving Troy, Mississippi State beating Arizona State, or USF beating Florida. You know what my thoughts are. Hilarious, hilarious, hilarious. And now for two of them, even funnier with what happened this weekend on the table. Before the season started, we're not going to mince words here. We're going to jump right into week 3. Week 3 on paper before the season started was nothing to write home about. A couple power conference matchups, a game between Arizona and Kansas State that, despite being both teams in the Big 12, was not a Big 12 conference game because it was scheduled before they were in the same conference. It makes no sense. Not only do we have to track what teams are going to teams and conferences every year, we have to track which of those games are conference games, because sometimes when you play a team in your conference, it's not actually a game inside your conference. It makes no logical sense. That's the NCAA for you in a nutshell, especially when it comes to collegiate football. We knew we were going to have a couple conference matchups. We knew we were going to have a couple top 15 matchups. That's it. What we did get was, I would argue, the best week we've had in college football so far. Week 1 was supposed to have all these great top 10 games. 2 of them sucked. And week 2 really had nothing outside of a couple upsets, which we knew going in. Week 3 had 2 front runners for game of the season. Last year's game of the season was obviously Oregon, Ohio State, and Eugene, or the national title game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Those were probably the 2 best games of the season. Maybe you can throw in Alabama, Georgia as well into that category, the game in Tuscaloosa last year. That was a fantastic game. We also had some generational upsets, right? And we're going to start with the upset. We're going to jump into the big games of the week. But I want to start with Georgia Tech taking down Clemson. Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets, under Coach Key, pulled off a upset the likes of which they haven't had in a decade. Think of how one-sided this rivalry has been at different times. Georgia Tech, I think, has a 15-game edge lifetime. It's like 51-36 or something like that in head-to-head matchups with Clemson. And that is despite Clemson winning the past 9 meetings. But the foot of Aiden Burr sinking a game-winning 55-yarder was enough for Georgia Tech to upset the Clemson Tigers. Now, right off the bat, I need to enjoy some I was wrong humble pie. Not the best tasting pie I've ever had. I enjoy key lime and apple and pumpkin. Best 3 pies. But really, you can't go wrong with a pie, I don't think. I've never had a pie I haven't liked. Clearly, I own mirrors. Who was my preseason national champion? It was the Clemson Tigers. I thought Dabo Swinney. I thought Tom Allen coming in from Penn State to be the new D coordinator. I thought Cade Klubnik, all their weapons, all their talented defenders. I thought that was good enough to win the national title. I know it is only the middle of September, but I am hopping off the proverbial bandwagon now, please. Done. I'm off the bandwagon. The bandwagon is tossed into the ash heap of history. I thought Dabo was better than this. I thought Klubnik was better than this. Bryant Wesco, Peter Woods, Wade Woodaz, Sammy Brown. I thought you were all better than this. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And the 1 is an unconvincing win against Roy, an offense that only scored 7 points against LSU. Not the 95. Not the 85 Chicago Bears. Not the 2000 Ravens. Not the Steel Curtain. Just a run-of-the-mill LSU team. It's a good defense. It's a good defense. It's not like you're playing one of the great defenses in college football history. I don't even think they're the best defense in college football this year. I'll be getting to LSU later on. But look, Clemson has been awful this entire season. Credit where it's due. I thought going into the year, Georgia Tech was a dark horse in the ACC title race, and they should have opened the season as a top 25 team. This is a good Georgia Tech team. They were a good Georgia Tech team last year. They are still a good team this year. But I'm not mentioning Clemson again for a month. 1 month. You will not hear Clemson and Tigers followed by the other in the same sentence. I have no need to mention this team until possibly October 18th when they host SMU. And let's be honest, let's see if I even do that. All right? Let's just see. Because they have to win all 3 games they have before that. But a 4-2 Clemson team heading into a game against SMU? Yeah, I'll talk about you then. Until then, Death Valley Jr., au revoir. By the way, if you look at Georgia Tech's schedule, which, by the way, if you don't buy the Phil Steele College Football Preview, you need to. Let me find Georgia Tech real quick. The Georgia Tech schedule the rest of the way. Temple, W. Wake Forest, W. Virginia Tech, dumpster fire. Duke, dumpster fire. Syracuse, dumpster fire. NC State, maybe a little tricky. Boston College, just lost to Stanford. Pitt, just lost to West Virginia, but could be tricky. And then Georgia. Georgia Tech might be 11-0 heading into their Georgia game. They do not face another, the tough part of their schedule was supposed to be Colorado on the road week 1 and then Clemson week 3. That's it. If this team stays healthy and the law firm of Haynes and Haynes continue to do what they can do, and this defense continues to play at the level they have, Miami and Florida State might not be the 2 ACC teams you got to keep an eye on. Might be these here Yellow Jackets under Brent Key. Might be these here Yellow Jackets. Just saying. And that game was fun, but the 2 biggest games of the week were obviously Notre Dame, Texas A&M, which I'm going to get to in a bit, and Tennessee, Georgia. At Rocky Top, Josh Heupel and the Volunteers almost had it. Tennessee almost had it. A 21-7 first quarter lead. Check. Joey Aguilar throwing the ball with relative impunity. Check. Over 100,000 orange and white clad supporters checkered. It was one of the most beautiful visuals to see. Check. They couldn't seal the deal though. At the end of the day, when push came to shove, they couldn't do it. Just wasn't enough. I'm not going to blame sophomore kicker Max Gilbert. Not going to blame him. There are plenty of pro kickers that miss a 43-yard field goal. Is it on the coach for not trying to run one more play, maybe getting a couple more yards and then calling a timeout? Is it on sophomore guard Shamarad Uramanov for moving early and getting a 5-yard false start penalty the play prior? Honestly, it's a mixture of all 3. But that's not fun. People are going to blame the kicker. It's not the kicker's fault that the defense gave up 40 points. It's not the kicker's fault that the offense could do nothing in overtime. He sunk it in overtime. He sunk a 48-yarder earlier in the game. Pressure's on, false start, rhythm wasn't there, shanked it. It's unfortunate. But here are the facts from this game. Georgia and Tennessee are 2 very similar teams that I think very equivalent about. That's not good English, but again, It scans. I'm not sold on either Georgia nor Tennessee's defense. I'm not sold on either team's defense. I think both teams give up way too many big plays. And Kirby Smart basically said that after the game when he was interviewed, I believe, by Doris Burke. He was asked, how'd you play? And he was like, give Tennessee a lot of credit. They're a really good football team. Our defense needs to be a lot better than this. 100% right. 100% right from Kirby Smart. Obviously, he knows more about his team than I do. But both, and as he said, both Georgia and Tennessee, I'm confirming right now. We're going to get to confirmed and changed later on. Georgia and Tennessee are both good teams. Yes, they're both good football teams. Before the season, I howled and complained and bitched about Tennessee being the most overrated team in college football. I remember saying it. I said it often. I said it to many different people in many different phone calls. I yelled it to myself. I yelled it in the shower. I yelled it in the mirror. I'm starting to sound like Dr. Seuss. I yelled it at Sam. Sam I am. I said that this team wouldn't be better than 5-7. I said they lost everybody in the transfer portal. That Joey Aguilar's just the quarterback from Appalachian State. Wrong again, Benny. Oh my goodness, I was wrong about this one. The Volunteers are just as good as they were a season ago, and they might be better. Joey Aguilar is better than Nico Yamaleva. Where they're not as good as they don't have Dylan Sampson, which is a loss. They don't have James Pierce on defense, which is a loss. Joey Aguilar has pro quarterback potential. Yes. He went to the same junior college as O.J. Simpson, by the way. City College of San Francisco. Think about that. Not comparing him to, whatever, And to be frank, I think Joey Aguilar is a third best quarterback in the SEC. And he's in the conversation with the top three. Outside of John Mateer and at Oklahoma and Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. Joey Aguilar is the quarterback in the SEC that has impressed me the most. He's impressed me more than Arch Manning, Gunnar Stockton, Ty Simpson, Diego Pavia. Who's the quarterback down at Auburn? Connor Wegman? Right? No, Jackson Arnold is the quarterback down at Auburn. Not Connor Wegman. I'm getting off topic. These are two very good teams. The problem with these two teams is they both do play in the SEC. Neither has a Florida-Oklahoma level crippling SEC schedule, but they have SEC schedules. It's too early for me to say both these teams are playoff teams, but it's not too early for me to say they both are playoff caliber. Absolutely are locked. And there's not many teams I feel comfortable saying that about this year. I do about both Georgia and Tennessee. USC transfer Zachariah Branch has given Georgia that big play potential they so egregiously lacked last season. Nate Frazier looks like he's continuing to get better. Illinois powered back transfer Josh McCray made a clutch, risky decision to reach the ball over the line in the bottom of a pile to seal the game in overtime. And while Gunnar Stockton is by no means a finished article yet, he has a lot of improvement to make. He tucks the ball to run way too quickly, way too often. But he didn't make any mistakes. On the road in Knoxville, that's a win. That's an absolute win. He did not make costly mistakes, and therefore, Georgia was able to get the job done. In the primetime slot on NBC, because of course they are, we had the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Texas A&M Aggies. Going into this one, I thought the Irish would take care of business and win by 10. I was not impressed by the Texas A&M defense going into this game, and I thought Marcel Reed would make one more mistake than CJ Carr, and they would lose in a shootout. I was half right. Texas A&M's defense is mediocre at best. They're not good. The game was a shootout. Both teams were mostly mistake-free. One turnover each. Not crazy amounts of penalties from either side. pretty even game. Big plays from both running backs, Le'Veon Moss and Jeremiah Love, both played really well. What I did not expect was how bad Notre Dame's defense is. It's not good. It is very clear that all the on-field guys they lost last year. Notre Dame misses defensive coordinator Al Golden. Al is one of the best defensive minds in the game right now, and that is regardless of level. It's the reason the Bengals just hired him to be the new DC down in Cincinnati. I'm not sold on new D coordinator Chris Ash. Far from me to criticize a coach who will forget more about defensive scheme than I will ever know. But they play with too much press man-to-man coverage. Just say you're playing too much man-to-man, and you're playing too much press man-to-man. They were able to get away with it last season because it's the same defensive scheme they ran last year. A little less aggressive, but in the secondary, it's the same scheme. A man-to-man, sometimes covering off into a cover three with a deep center safety. That's pretty much what it was all game. They could get away with it last year when they had Xavier Watts roaming the deep waters of the defense like a great white shark, doing that extremely well. But John Stroman and Aiden Schuler are not Watts. They are not at his level. Which explains why two solid corners like Leonard Moore and Christian Gray, which Christian Gray is the main character from 50 Shades of Grey. Not that I should know that, but I do know that. Another topic for another day. They were smoked all day by Mario Carver. Mario Carver went off all day. He had over 200 yards receiving, I'm pretty sure, including like an 80-yarder. Absolutely ridiculous. I still like what I see from CJ Carr. He's young. He still has a ways to go, but I think he could be like Brady Quinn level for Notre Dame at some point. Like a national title caliber quarterback. He needs his time. Before I go back to the Irish, I want to touch on the Aggies for one more second. Because like Georgia and Tennessee before, Texas A&M has a pretty brutal schedule. Last year, the Aggies, outside of their opening regular season loss to Notre Dame with a different starting quarterback in Connor Wegman, their problem was falling down the stretch, losing 3 of their last 4, including games to Auburn. Not great. The Aggie defense needs to improve if they're going to make the playoffs because their schedule is brutal and their offense will slump at some point. Here's the problem for Notre Dame. Their schedule is not shaping up to be a very good one. Every game from here on out is must win. That's obvious. They will be in the conversation if they get to the end and they have a 10-2 record. But with Pitt losing this weekend to West Virginia, Boise State's Week 1 loss to South Florida, and Syracuse and Navy not being top-tier opponents, Navy's still fine, but they're not top-tier opponents. If they win out this year and go 10-2, their best win is USC. USC is a team that is not ranked, but probably will be, or I should say should be. Now the 3-0 with a road win over Purdue, they should be probably ranked 25. But I'm not certain they will be come the end of the season when these two teams play. And I'm going to double check again. This is why I love this book. I can very easily go to Notre Dame. Cheap plug. Phil, I'd love to have an interview with you if you hear this, which you won't, but just in case. Let's just go the rest of the way. Purdue. I mean, that's a must-win, obviously. Home game against Purdue, they got to take care of business. Away at Arkansas. Arkansas's quality. You get a win against an SEC team, but not one that's a playoff contender. Boise State, NC State, USC. That's a tough one. Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. They should blow out all those teams anyways. It's not a great schedule. And they'll be 1-2 against ranked teams, most likely. Let's move on to who changed it and who confirmed it. Where we talk about teams that have changed my minds. I'm not doing over the past 2 weeks. I'm just doing after this 1 week. Teams or things that changed my mind and teams or things that confirmed my opinions and prejudices. probably shouldn't use that word. But it's confirmed. Florida Gator offense is terrible. Hey, Gator fans. Remember when you all said that you'd win the SEC with DJ Lagway as a full season at quarterback? Because I do. And no, you won't. He threw 5 picks in the game against LSU where their best defender was kicked out of the game for targeting, I think, within like the first 2 drives. And you still lost. And you didn't look good doing it. Offensively. Defensively, you guys looked fine. I think it's more to do with LSU's offense ain't great. It's not very good. But your offense is terrible. And now, Florida, right? Diving back into the book on Florida. Next week, you travel to Miami, who, spoiler alert, changed. Miami might be the best team in the country. I didn't buy it. I said Miami's good. They're probably the best team in the ACC, but they're not national title contenders. Fake news, they are. And I want to talk about culture for a second, because all the talking points on ESPN on game day, right, were Miami's going to beat USF because USF isn't going to sneak up on Miami. USF shouldn't have snuck up on Florida. They beat Boise State. USF didn't sneak up on Florida. Florida knew that USF was a good team. They overlooked them because the culture in that program is not good. The culture in Miami's program, I think, is starting to be good under Mario Cristobal, a coach I do really like, despite what he did at Oregon. Not great. So that's something that changed my mind. Something that confirmed my mind. South Carolina is not a playoff contender. They are just an average SEC team. There's nothing wrong with being an average SEC team. There's plenty of them. Auburn, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Missouri. Maybe Missouri might be even a little better. But you know what I mean. Like, those are just average SEC teams. There's a ton of them. There's 10 of them, probably. Right? There's a bunch of them. You're just one of those. You're better than Kentucky and maybe not even Mississippi State. You're better than Kentucky, but not by much. Lenora Sellers got hurt right before halftime of that game off a Vanderbilt targeting call. That was, it was targeting by the rule of law, but not really. He got a little concussed. Coach Beamer was smart, took him out of the game, but they had only scored 7 points against Vanderbilt. Which brings me to changed. Vanderbilt should not be totally slept on. My mother is only a Vanderbilt fan because she works there. The second she stops working there, she will not give a damn about this program. But I need to apologize to her for, overlooking Vanderbilt, not a real football program, just in the SEC to make up the numbers, yada, 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 whatever. All right. This being said, I think this game between Vanderbilt beating South Carolina in South Carolina says more about South Carolina than it does Vanderbilt. Alabama proved last year, look, it's not the end of the world. You can lose to Vanderbilt nowadays. It's okay. Diego Pavia is a very exciting, very good quarterback. Clark Lee looks like he could be a very good coach once he goes to a program that invests in winning. He could be a really good coach. Vanderbilt is not a team you can only score 7 points on. The problem is South Carolina's offense that struggled against a Virginia Tech team that just lost to Old Dominion. I think it says more about the Gamecocks than it does about the Commodores. And then the last thing, something that is confirmed in my mind, is that there is a 5-horse race in the American Conference, and the group of 5 playoff representative will be the champion of the American Athletic Conference. It might just be the American Conference now. They might have changed it. The AAC champion is going to be the group of 5 representative. Let's run through them real quick. Tulane is already 3-0 with wins over Duke and Northwestern. Memphis looks really solid and has a home game against Arkansas next week to prove it. Keep an eye on that game. That's going to be an interesting one. Navy Hasn't played anybody yet, but they're just as dynamic and fun to watch as they were last season. South Florida is still firmly in the hunt despite falling hard to Miami. This is still a good team that has 2 very high-quality wins. And I also want to mention Eric Morris's North Texas Mean Green. Redshirt freshman quarterback Drew Mestermaker is really explosive, and a 59-10 win over Washington State will make me take notice. And finally, Stanford won a football game, something I did not think they would do all year. Congrats, Stanford, Boston College. Shame on you for letting that happen. We're going to wrap today with my top 10. If you remember from a couple weeks ago, I'm not mentioning people's rankings in the AP poll. I'm not focusing on it. I'm not giving numbers of teams. But my top 10 is going to change on a week-to-week basis. The teams I think are the best 10 teams in the country. I have a reason for it, and I'm sticking with it. And it's 100% biased. The number 1 team in the country is the Miami Hurricanes. While both of their wins are at home, I love the victories over Notre Dame and USF, both of whom are quality teams, and Notre Dame, forget what they say about 0-2, is still a good team. The Clemson win does not look as good for LSU. The Texas win does not look as good for Ohio State. I think Miami right now is the number 1 team in the country. As I sit here today, with a game against Florida at home next week, Miami's the best team in the country. Number 2, we have the LSU Tigers. The best individual win is still LSU over Clemson on the road. It's not as big as it was when it happened. It doesn't beat the combined wins over South Florida and Notre Dame for Miami, but it's still the best individual win this season. Their best player was tossed early against Florida, like I already mentioned, and the defense still locked down the Gator offense. LSU has potentially the best defense in the country. It's up there with 2 other teams that I'm about to mention, and they are, in my mind, the best team in the SEC right now. 3, the team I think actually has the best defense in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. It took a while, but they pulled away from a stingy Ohio Bobcat team with Parker Navarro. Shout out Timothée Chalamet. But beating Texas is still a really positive result. I think this is the nation's best defense. Caleb Downs is, I think, the nation's best player. They're here. Number 4 is where the bias is. Number 4 is the undefeated, unchallengeable, unmatched Oregon Ducks. Now, I probably should have put Texas A&M and Georgia ahead of Oregon. Okay? But I don't care. 3 games in, and the Oregon Ducks starting defense hasn't given up a touchdown. I am drinking bucket loads of the Kool-Aid, baby. We're talking cult levels in Suriname in terms of drinking the Oregon Duck Kool-Aid. Beavers this week? You don't think I'm ready to murder some Beavers? I could use a new hat. And then we head to Penn State. I'll get to the Lions in a second. The Nittany Lions in a second, rather. 5, I have the Texas A&M Aggies. Utah State and Texas San Antonio are not pushover programs, but a win that way against Notre Dame shoots the Aggies all the way up in my rankings. Followed very closely by number 6, the Georgia Bulldogs. Honestly, it's basically a tie for 5th place between Texas A&M and Georgia. They both got wins over good teams on the road this past weekend, but I still haven't forgotten the way Georgia looked against a god-awful Austin Peay team. That's not forgivable. Texas A&M, Texas San Antonio is a better team. Texas A&M has beaten a solid UTSA team, and I think Marcel Reed is better than Gunnar Stockton as of right now. A&M gets 5, Georgia gets 6. 7, another undefeated SEC team, the Oklahoma Sooners. I am high as a kite when it comes to my opinion of these Sooners. Let me tell you, if they beat Auburn convincingly next week, look for them to jump even my Oregon Ducks. I'm talking jumping Ohio State, Oregon, A&M, and Georgia if they not only beat, but bully Auburn next week. John Mateer has been my pick for the Heisman since before the season started. I love this Oklahoma football team. Number 8. What's up, Penn State? I know you're 3-0. They have a bye week this week as they prepare for Oregon. I don't consider facing FIU and Villanova on the same level as facing Oklahoma State and Northwestern and Oregon State. Bring on your whiteout, Penn State. I'm ready. Bring it. We'll fly across the country to Pennsylvania and get James Franklin's ass fired. Bring it on. I'm not worried. Number 9, the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm putting Tennessee over fellow SEC 2-1 teams Texas and Alabama, despite the Volunteers' loss being the only one of those 3 to come at home. Reason why? I like more of what I saw from Tennessee in their loss than either Texas against Ohio State or Alabama against Florida State. And I don't think Florida State's good enough to be in the top 10. That's going to come back to bite me, I think. I really like this Tennessee team. I really saw a lot that I like from them, and I didn't want to drop them out of here. They played their ass off, and they deserve to be here. Number 10, and this is where it's going to come back to bite me. Number 10 are the 0-2 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I can hear you laughing already. I can hear you typing already. Give me a minute, all right? How is an 0-2 team one of the best 10 in the country? You're right. But having watched 2 of their games, I think they're better than every team not on this list. And I couldn't think of a 10th team. I think some of these are easy. I think with a straight face, you could say, is Notre Dame better than Utah? Yes. Is Notre Dame better than Georgia Tech? Yes. Is Notre Dame better than Iowa State? Yes. Auburn? Yes. There's somewhere it's tricky. Are they better than Alabama? I would still say yes. Are they better than Illinois? I would still say yes. Are they better than Florida State? I would say yes. You may say no. Are they better than Texas? I would say yes. Again, you may say no. I think this is truly one of the 10 best teams in the country. They're just 0-2 right now. Look at the NFL. The Bengals are always an above-average team. This year aside, they always start 0-2. It's going to take time. Notre Dame's going to figure it out. But they might not be a playoff team, despite being one of the 10 best teams in the country. I'm going to be back later this week to preview, probably Thursday morning. Thursday morning, I'm feeling I'm coming back to preview the week upcoming. It's going to be some fun ones this week. I hope you join me. I hope you come back. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you find this: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. I'm not going to read it, but I'd like to hear from you. Thanks for listening in. Have a good week. See you later on. Go Ducks!